Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much. We've never tried this. This is historic. Jeff and Jane, thank you so much for being in the waiting room and hanging in there for so long. We wanted to get to see everybody and hear your questions and just continue to connect and update in this process. Camp has begun to be rebuilt, which is unbelievable after 7 years of mourning and sadness. And so now we sort of turn our attention to, the next couple of years of rebuilding process and replanting and getting camp ready to be comfortable and shaded and feel like we're returning back to a forest. And then we also start thinking about what else is going to be needed going forward to reopen camp. The more subtler stuff, the culture of the staff, the programming, the feeling like camp feels like it was when we left it, even though the buildings will be new. And a lot of the trees, the tall, 70-foot trees will not be there. How can we make it even as close as we can from day one to be the camp that we wanted to return to and we're looking forward to so much. So that's kind of what this series of Office in the Green Chairs will be. I have my coffee, as you can see, if you can see it in this virtual background. So good morning, everybody.
Morning,
I want to introduce, just tell a couple of housekeeping things about this kind of meeting. So you're automatically muted to come in because you can imagine with whatever we have, 50 people, the sounds would be overwhelming if people don't know where their mute button is. So we start there and we can see everybody though, which is great to see everybody. I'm so happy to see your faces. I think I know almost everybody here. And you can set your view to gallery view so you can see everybody versus speaker view. That's the one setting you want to do on your own screen.
And Scott, just tell people how to do that. That's it there in that upper right-hand corner, right? It says, if you click on that in the upper right-hand corner of your window, that gallery view button, if you click on that, you'll see.
You want to actually see on your screen, it actually will say speaker view, but you're in gallery view. So if you're in gallery view, you'll see everybody in the same size box. So that's in the upper right corner of your Zoom window. If you can't find it, then don't worry about it, but that's where that is. The other thing to note is your microphone is in the lower left corner of your Zoom window. And so when you get unmuted, you want to just note that. And because you won't be able to unmute yourself, I'll be able to unmute you. So there's two ways to ask questions. One way is to raise your hand, and then we'll find you, hopefully, in our screen. And then we'll unmute you. And I'll call out your name to ask the next question. Or you can also type it in the chat box. So at the bottom of your screen, you'll see chat. If you click on that once, it opens up another window to the right of your screen, sort of an additional screen. And you can actually type in a question or a comment or say good morning or tell us how much you love us. All right? So that's in the chat box. And we'll look in the chat box for questions. If some people feel like they can't turn on their mics or figure it out, you can just pop your question in the chat box. And in question goes. Today, we're thrilled to have Craig Veramay with us, who is really our best friend in camp. He is the former manager of camp and now oversees all of the management of all the camps for the City of Berkeley, all of the sleepaway camps, the 3 sleepaway camps and also day camp. He's going to get into his conversation a little bit about programming and hiring and staff issues. And sort of how he's looking forward to bringing back staff and programming for camp. We also have Serena Fox, who is our newest member of our team, our development director. And we just want you to learn and see her face and just get to know her just for a brief bit. And then Steve Geary, as most of you know, our president of the Friends, who have really nurtured this spirit along as the president of the board for a really long time now. He was on the board before the fire and then helped transition the board to new board members who have been carrying the ball since. So let's start by just handing off to Serena, who will just introduce herself and talk a little bit about, what our quick goals are coming up for going forward. So Serena, take it away.
Hi, everybody. I am Serena Fox, and I am so happy to be part of this group. I'm a 20-year camper. My kids grew up going to camp every summer with a big group of some of my best friends, some of whom are on this call. And it's so exciting that after 7 years of hard work, we are finally here and the reconstruction of camp has actually begun. I get a thrill every time I think about that. It's such an achievement, and it's really due to you. It's due to the whole community of campers and staff and former staff that this project is even happening. So it's your incredible passion and commitment and support that made it possible for camp to be rebuilt. And we've got a lot of work to do, which Steve is going to tell you about, and Scott and Craig, in the next 2 years to make sure that when camp reopens in 2020, it doesn't just look like camp, but it also feels like camp. And our goal is to give everyone who loves camp a chance to be part of that reopening effort. We're looking for 100% participation from everyone, campers, kids, staff, former staff over the next 2 years. And there are so many ways to get involved. And so many people have been waiting to get involved. And now it's really, we've got a project, we can do this. So you can volunteer, lots of ways to volunteer. Please call me, please email me. I will find something for you to do. You can sign up for a tree planting. You can give online. You can get together with a group of friends and pledge over a multi-year group. And there's lots of levels of recognition that I'm happy to tell you about. Lots of people like getting their name on a green chair, which is a fairly significant gift, but you can put a group of friends together and get your name on that green chair, get a plaque on the wall in the dining hall. If you have questions, please reach out to me by phone, email, Serena at FOBTC. And weekends, evenings, I'm happy to talk about camp anytime. So now to tell you about all of FOBTC's plans for next 2 years, I'm gonna hand it off to Steve Geary.
Well, thank you, Serena, and good morning, campers. Hopefully, can you hear me okay, Scotty?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, great, thanks. Hey, everybody, great to see all of you. I'm gonna be really brief here, but I had a beautiful morning. I'm sure you did. Had a great stone shower. Breakfast was awesome in the D Hall, and love to be here with you guys with my Berkeley Camp mug in the green chair circle. So thanks for joining me. Love these. I've had many of these sort of great Craig and Steve and Scott sort of chats in the green chair circle up at Echo Camp, and it's just a really wonderful natural format. So love doing that. The only thing I really wanted to communicate, and we talked about this a little bit briefly last time, is from the Friends standpoint, over the last 6 or 7 years, we've been really singularly focused on, gosh, can we even get camp rebuilt? Like, that was the first question. And then the second question was like, how are we going to make the camp what we want it to be from an infrastructure standpoint? How can we support them? We're there now, right? Construction started this week. Like, it's still hard for me to believe, but the board kind of knew that was, coming, and this has been very exciting. So I wanted to share with you again, really quickly, the board at our most recent retreat came up with a 3-year strategic plan. So we really have 4 things that the board's working on over the next couple of years. I just wanted to hit home to you. And again, if you have any questions about it, let me know. But the 4 things that we're working on over the next 3 years, so through the opening of camp, or those 3 years there, are, again, now that we have 2 years to reopening, nourishing culture and reestablishing those camp traditions and spirit. We know we've been all carrying that inside of us over the last 6 or 7 years, all those traditions, all the songs, the way things work at camp. The goal for us is to make sure that we gather all that back up, and then on day one, right, we kind of bring that back to camp and it's there. So nourishing that culture and spirit. Obviously, number 2 is we still have work to do on the rebuild. We have, if anyone's done any sort of home renovation or construction project, lots of things are going to come up over the next couple years for us to support and weigh in on. So we have a lot to do there. That's number 2, is continuing the rebuild. Number 3, a big push from the board and from the camper community is really working to increase diversity, inclusion, and equality for staff and campers, and really bringing in a wide variety of folks to camp and making everyone feel welcome. That's one of the main focuses of our board. And then the last one is really continuing to steward nature. We have this beautiful natural place. What can we do to really understand the culture of the historic culture of the area, the trees in the watershed, the nature center, getting greenery and everything up there and making it really feel like that natural, special place again. So those are our 4 main initiatives over the next 3 years, and I look forward to working on all those with you. With that, Craig, it's all you, buddy. Your turn.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. It's wonderful to see a lot of familiar faces, and it's great to see some staff, even some current staff that I work with right now. A couple of housekeeping things. First and foremost, I want to apologize for how loud the trash pickup was at about 4 a.m. I know I'm working on it. I don't know why they come at 4 a.m. And also the staff party that happened last night, we're going to be addressing that. So don't worry, I'm on it. Hey, thank you all again, just so much for being a part of our community. We're so happy to be at this stage of this project. This is we're entering my 8th summer with the City of Berkeley Camps programs. And thankfully, I did have 1 summer at Berkeley Tuolumne Camp in 2013. You know, the last 7 summers have been primarily up at Echo Lake Camp and supporting other camp programs. But I'm so thankful to have had that opportunity in 2013 to be a part of the program, to see it, to witness it, to really understand and feel what that camp spirit is all about. And I'm really excited that we now have the opportunity to bring that back, to recreate it on some levels, and to honor a lot of the traditions that Tuolumne Camp holds, and those memories that are so important to all of us. So I'm really excited to answer questions today about programming, about what we're doing as the city to make sure that those traditions come back just as strong as they ever were, and that this place that is so meaningful to so many of us can continue to provide these experiences and help us build memories for future generations. So that's why I'm here today. You know, there's a lot of different components to this project. The rebuild is definitely the city's top priority right now. And we want to make sure that the construction goes well, that the facility is rebuilt, that we have this resource that we can use. My role on that is to advise on a program level. Liza McNulty, she's our capital project manager for this project. She's working with a huge team of consultants, the construction crew, and she's been on a couple of these sessions and forums talking about that project and really what the scope of work is for construction. So I'm happy to answer some questions about that, but I'm definitely not the expert, the subject matter expert when it comes to construction. The one thing I will say about that project right now, just to kind of off the top here, is that we did start construction this week on Tuesday, and we're really excited about that. That's a huge accomplishment. It's taken a lot of work to get to this point. We couldn't have gotten here without your support, without the Friends' support. Scott, Steve have been instrumental in making sure that the city has been able to get to this point. So a big thank you to all of you. And also on that note, I know many of you are really excited about that project too. We're asking you not to go to the site right now. We know how tempting it might be, especially with everything happening, to take a road trip or take a drive and to go check it out. But we are asking for your patience. As of right now, we know that there have been quite a few people that have gone up to the site in the past week, and it's actually been a bit of a detractor for our construction crew. And we want to make sure that they're given the best chance for success in a limited timetable. And rather than fending off campers, we're hoping that they can keep working on construction and on that project. So I definitely appreciate the desire to go visit the site right now, but we're going to ask you to please stay away from that site for the time being until we get a little further down the road with that project. And there will be opportunities further down the road for you to drive by, to go see what's happening up at the site. The city likewise will be sharing updates and information on our website about the progress and the status of construction. So this is we're anticipating a 2-year construction window, which means we're planning right now for camp to reopen the summer of 2022. And that gives us a little bit of time to continue to refine our plans for a program and what that looks like. And in my mind right now, I'm thinking every day about the Tuolumne Camp project. We're working hard to work on our staffing plan, to begin the procurement process, to buy all of the supplies and the equipment that we need to run camp, all the kitchen equipment, the forks, the knives, the mugs. We've got to have green chairs. We've got to have itsits in the store, and someone's going to have to put the work in to make sure that all of those things come back to camp so that we can have a great experience up there. And that's going to be where my focal point is over the next 2 years in regards to this project. It's going to be working with a team of people to really make sure that camp is ready to go, that our new staff that come in understand what camp culture is all about, that they understand the traditions of camp, and that we can run some really wonderful programs. So we'll be working hard over the next few years to gear up and get ready to go and reopen camp for this summer of 2022. So again, just want to say thank you all so much for being here. I've got some other things I'm sure I'll talk about too, but Scott, kind of want to turn it back over to you. I see some questions are kind of coming in, and we can kind of launch into some of those probably.
Yeah, that's great, Craig. Thank you. So yeah, good job typing in your questions in the chat box. That's super helpful. And if you want to raise your hand when we are between questions, then we'll try to unmute your mic and see if that can work. I have a long list of people that I'm going to try to find you in this long list and unmute your mic and get all your questions answered. So nice to settle into the green chairs and be with you this morning. And I see lots of good questions. Here's one for you, Craig, from Karen. Has the construction funding by the city been impacted by the coronavirus economy?
No, it has not been impacted. You know, the funding for this project was lined up well before the coronavirus has impacted the economy. So our work on that with our insurance, with FEMA, with our other funders and the cost recovery was lined up well in advance. And you know, the construction crew, the contract that we entered into occurred right in the middle of March. So it definitely was some coincidental timing. We're really thankful that we're able to get that project off the ground and that we were able to get it started, given everything that's going on. But our Parks, Recreation, Waterfront Department, the team of people that were working on getting that contract up and going, really did push hard to make sure that we were able to stick to the schedule that we had developed. And you know, Liza and I, every time we talk, we are always just amazed that we've been able to stick to the schedule that we've had since around 2017. You know, 2017, the schedule did shift several times prior to that, but since then we've been able to really stick to the schedule that we've laid out, and we are still very optimistic that we will be able to reopen camp in 2022. You guys, if you've ever, like Scott said, if you've ever done a construction project or remodel, you know that there are a lot of things that could come up along the way, and we're aware of that. We know that the schedule could shift or change, but as of right now, we are right on track. And the funding is lined up. No concerns there right now.
Craig, I think I know the answer to this. I saw a question posted though from the last time that we chatted, but somebody asked about capacity at camp, and I believe what Liza said last time, right, is both from a staff and a camper standpoint, we're looking to rebuild the camp to have the same capacity as last time. Yeah,
that's correct. You know, we work with the Forest Service. We have a permit for a certain number of people at camp, and we requested a permit with the same number of campers and the same number of staff that we used to have at Tuolumne Camp. That's around 280 campers on site and around 60 staff, you know, give or take.
Yeah, that's great. I just wanted to say out loud, because I think we posted it in the chat, and I think you mentioned this, but I'll say as well, like people were asking about construction photos along the way, and I think, Craig, you mentioned you'll post some construction updates. And Scott, you may want to address that as well, because I think FOBTC, we're doing some stuff for construction update.
Yeah, so Craig and Liza will be going up to camp on a relatively consistent window. Craig is actually very busy dealing with Office of Emergency Services now in his job as well. It's amazing how, Craig has had to flex like a Swiss Army knife and support things in Berkeley, as a lot of people who with a lot of talent have had to do since the virus hit. I know that Liza has told us that she's planning on being going up to camp and staying connected and sending photos from there. So as that happens, since we're not allowed to go up, as that happens, we will then post them and let people know about them through our email mostly and social media outreaches. So if don't get the FOBTC emails, that is really the best way to stay connected to this process. We do post on Facebook and on Instagram, but we really want to have everybody in our email system. And we're not sharing that list, of course, with anybody, but that is the best way for us to actually communicate to you. So just join that email list. We promise not to overdo it, but we also want to keep everybody connected, and that is the best system for us to use, even better than the Facebook page. So yeah, we'll post photos as they come in from Liza, and we really want to show the excitement of camp being rebuilt. So we're super excited about that.
Craig, we've got a three-parter from Emeritus Board Member Chrissy. Chrissy, good to see you. Hi. Three-parter question for you around the Nature Center. So just, is the Nature Center being rebuilt? And is Janet and other sort of nature staff involved? And then will there be artists in residence?
Yeah, great questions. The Nature Center is being rebuilt. The Nature Center is going to be in a slightly different location than you may have remembered it in the past. It's going to be on the Hardin Flat Road side of the river, kind of near where Sun City Restroom is. And I think that's a really incredible location for the Nature Center. It's going to be much more accessible, and it's going to be a location that I think we can use for some really incredible programming. There's a lot of people who have a background in environmental education and nature center programs that I've been talking to. I definitely have spoken with Janet. I know I've spoken with Phil Coffin quite a bit about the Nature Center and what will that program look like. I think there's so many opportunities for forest ecology, for fire ecology, for us to really talk about this incredible location that we're in, straddling the South Fork of the Tuolumne River, and really to capture what the Nature Center felt like before. I know that the Nature Center used to be way up on the hillside, and then it came down in more recent years to the Rec Lodge. And there's a lot of people who have ideas about what that should look and feel like. We're excited to bring those traditions back. So yeah, really excited about the Nature Center.
Yeah, great questions.
I'll jump in on this question about, we live in Los Angeles, but we'd like to drive up to tree planting with our kids. Is there info on your website? So yes, on replanting trees is the response. You can see that I typed that in. The tree planting, we're hoping it's very weather dependent, but we have a really wonderful direct line to Maria Bennett, who is the director for replanting all of the reforestation in the Rimfire Recovery Zone, which is a huge zone. It's a 247,000 acre zone that they're replanting. And Maria is the one who's in charge. She is literally on our team about replanting trees. We couldn't be in better hands. They're literally holding trees, small 1 foot pluggers. That's what they use. They don't do mature trees, but they do 1 foot pluggers. But they're holding trees to plant for us. And they want to do more and more planting as we can. And there's two factors to that. One is COVID and having social distancing and the ability to actually bring groups together. Right now, the Forest Service has a policy that they don't do that. They don't allow any group activity. So that's one issue. And that she expects to ease up into more sort of the new normal social distancing ability so people can be spaced out and still volunteer in these days. She's hoping to do one between mid-November and mid-December, not just in March, but actually do another one in the winter, and that's going to be weather dependent. There can't be snow on the ground, but the ground needs to be wet, is It'll be more of a spontaneous factor. But we're going to promote all of that through our emails and also on our Facebook page. Those, you know, if you're zeroing in, those are the places to really look for. We'll also post it on Instagram as well, but we want you to be on our email. So that's to answer that question. Anybody can come to those.
Yep.
Of course, we welcome you to drive from anywhere and join us.
Hey, Craig, the last part, caught you drinking coffee, but the last part of Chrissy's question was about artists in residence and sort of programming around that. And so I'm sure that that's going to be, I'm sure the intention is that that'll be part of the future programming at camp. I don't know if you want to say anything else about that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's a huge part of the Tuolumne Camp experience, is the opportunity for adults and for kids to take part in these really incredible activities. And that was one of my favorite parts of the Tuolumne Camp experience, was working with our artists in residence. So I'm really excited to bring that program back. And I hope some of you will bring your talents to Tuolumne Camp. I see a couple of artists in residence on the call right now that I know have some incredible skills, and I'm looking forward to those applications when they come in.
Great.
Yeah. So one thing I want to say, just because we're talking about the Nature Center, is one of our goals that you may have heard the other night is stewarding nature going forward, not just in the next 2 years, but actually going forward into keeping camp healthy and bringing back that forest. And part of that could very well be a year-round program that FOBTC funds to make sure the trees are taken care of year-round, because they will be needed to have that. And that the Nature Center program every summer connects with that goal. And so we're here to support what the city chooses to do, because it is their programming. But Craig really is in lockstep with us to wanting that connection and support and involvement around how do we keep stewarding nature and bring that education to campers year round. You know, I was there when we started the Tuolumne Ranger program. That was started in 1987 with Jerry and Janet. And I was the camp activity supervisor that year. Actually, I was the assistant director that year. And it was phenomenal. And I think that is a good model for us to begin to look forward into even creating a more robust kind of sort of educational experience for kids who are at camp. We have the unique experience now of having the camp burn down, and bringing it back will be another educational, remarkable experience for people to watch it grow together as they grow. So we're super excited to be involved with the city with that as a goal for FOBTC. I love your green chair, Pamela. Yes, you're getting good comments on it. Beautiful. Pam Dolan, yeah. So thank you, Pam. I love those. So let's try, if you want to raise your hand or type in your question. Steve will look in the group chat along with Serena and throw those questions out. Just jump in if you need to, you guys. And I'll look for hands. And I've only got about 49 of you on the screen, but there's more of you. So be patient with me. Phil, did I see you raise your hand? No, okay. So I'm gonna try to scroll around, type in any questions you have if I don't get to you, because I don't see everybody on my screen, but I'll try to move around and we'll go from there.
Scott, there's a few questions that I know I field frequently around program at Tuolumne Camp, and so I might just talk a little bit about some of those in the meantime here. A lot of people have asked me, you know, will we have theme days? Will we have evening activities? What about the staff show on Saturday? And, you know, the plan is for all of those things to come back. Those are really important parts of the camp experience. So, you know, right now we're hoping that we can bring back all of those traditional activities. So I'm really looking forward to tie-dye on Tuesdays. I'm excited about the Kids Fabulous Fun Hour, tuck-in. You know, those are things that are so important to camp. We know that with some new buildings and new facilities, there might be an opportunity to maybe do some new programming as well. And there might be new things that come up that we think could be, you know, exciting. Our staff are excited about, our campers are excited about. So of course, you know, we're ready to adapt to the new facility if we need be, and maybe run some new programming as well. But we are looking forward to, like I said, the camp store being back. We're looking forward to having kids play areas. We're looking forward to kiddie camp, which will be back, and really making sure that all those traditions are still there. The staff culture something that I'm really working on right now in making sure that we reach out to former staff. I see quite a few former staff on this call who have experience working at Tuolumne. Over the next couple of years, we're going to be working on developing our plan for staff training. How do we train staff to run this new facility in a way that honors the traditions of the past, and make sure also that I'm covering city liability and doing things the way that they need to be done. So, we're making sure that we're considering that staff community as well. And things will be a little bit different. The staff residence area will be in a slightly new location. So another big question that I get frequently is, well, how are you going to make sure that the staff are integrated in camp? And that's something that we're working really hard on as well, to make sure that that integration really is there. So those are some of the common questions that I know that I've been fielding over the past couple of months.
And Craig, I've got a couple questions that came up last time that have just been chatted again. So first is stone showers. Will they be there? I know the answer is yes. And actually more stone showers than we had before. So that's an awesome. I see lots of excited people, myself included, about that. Those are going to be great. And then there were questions about just sort of water access, Craig. Do you have any ideas about, will there be the swimming hole there? Will we have access from the two sides, from the two different beach sides, Beaverhead, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, Beaverhead is still there. We will have the swimming hole. We will still have access to the swimming hole. Swimming is going to be a big part of the program. We are planning to have lifeguards back at camp. So I think we can expect a very similar experience to the past.
I just unmuted Rachel. Go ahead, Rachel, ask your question.
Hi, Rachel here. I'm started going to camp when I was about 6 years old. I'm 30 now. And I was just programming was always my favorite part of camp. I was just curious, and you guys just talked about the fact that you're bringing in old alumni counselors and old staff. And I'm sure that you guys have documented a lot of the different traditions, the different pieces that were brought up in theme days and things. But do you guys feel like there's any sort of crowdsourcing of, different memories or different kinds of things that came up over the years that you guys are looking for from old campers? I'm sure that the staff are going to be great about, since they really ran a lot of the programming, but was just curious if there's going to be any sort of like a collective brainstorm of like the last 20 years of programming at camp from campers.
Rachel, love that. And absolutely. And I should have made this connection to everybody earlier, but when we talk about those 4 strategic goals from the board over the next 4 years, again, one of those is all those traditions. And so for each of those areas, we have a board member sort of that's taking chair on each of those, and are already starting to create little subcommittees, and are going to start to reach out to the whole community. So you will start to see email blasts from us. For example, if you are passionate about diversity and inclusion and equality, and that's something you really wanted to help shepherd at camp, you will have an opportunity to do that. And Rachel, in your case, if you also are really interested in sort of helping share those memories and put together that sort of collective experience about what the camper experiences there, you will have those opportunities. So look for that soon. Those committees are just getting going.
Yeah, and we're also going to take that same idea, Rachel, I love that question, and bring this to this forum to make it easier for people who do live in Los Angeles to connect with us as well. So the next forum, we'll probably do this once a month. We're going to sort of see how the need is, but our goal is to really be accessible to campers in this next couple of years, to get questions answered, to get concerns addressed, to keep them involved and included. This is what I've heard for the last 2 years, the most precious space for their families and the history of their families, just like you're talking about growing up there. So the next one in about a month, we'll get a date that we confirm, but we figure we'll do these once a month. We'll be about nature and stewarding nature and the Nature Center, the general idea of how do we, make the Nature Center program much more connected to the land. We'll bring in those committee chairs. We'll invite Craig to be a part of that. And so that'll be the next one. It doesn't have to be limited to that, but that'll be something like a focus. We had a lot of questions the other night about staffing. When you're going to look for a new director, what is the staff size going to be? How are they going to be trained? And that's why we asked Craig to be at this first one, to really be able to address some of those questions. I'll keep scanning for anybody who wants to raise their hand if you have your camera on. If you don't have your camera on, obviously we won't see that, but you can also type in your questions, again, on the chat box, and we'll address them. And sometimes,
Craig,
yeah.
I think that you had mentioned, Craig, when we were kind of just chatting about this, that when you and I were chatting last week, when you called me to let me know the unfortunate news, but of course that that Echo wasn't going to be happening this summer. One of the things that I might look to first to you, Craig, to address, and then maybe open it up to everyone on the call is, look, we don't have Tuolumne this summer. We don't even have, those that are Echo camp lovers don't have that this summer. How are, Craig, how are ways that you're starting to brainstorm that we might come together as a camp community this summer in lieu of camp? And maybe you start, Craig, and then Scotty, I don't know if you or Serena want to address that, or if anyone has any ideas on the call, would love some ideas about how we can do things virtually this summer to feel that camp spirit.
Yeah, unfortunately, we did have to make that call to cancel programs up at Echo Lake Camp this summer. That was a tough call to make, but we're pretty confident that that was the right call to keep the health and safety of our campers our number one priority. So that was tough, but we're looking for ways to maintain that community. I've been in conversations with some of our staff at Echo over the past week. In particular to that group, how do we talk about this, the impact of not being able to experience camp? And I've been reaching out to a lot of campers as well in the past week to speak with them about what are their plans this summer? What are things that we could do to help contribute? I know everyone is going through a really challenging time right now. And we want to be able to provide ways for people to engage with camp and find ways to engage with fellow campers who they share those experiences with. So we're looking at ways we can do that. We're looking at the possibility of maybe running some virtual campfires. DC Pompey, our camp manager up at Echo Lake Camp, will be up at that site this summer. He's going to be up there working on making sure that the facility is in good shape, that it's maintained over the course of the season, that we do have some site security up there, probably kicking some of you out of Echo Lake Camp this summer, including our staff, and making sure that there's some ways to engage. So I'd love to maybe have a green chair circle from up there. I'd love to virtually find opportunities to connect. We'd also be interested, if and when we're allowed, to maybe host small events or things down here in the Bay. But all of that is yet to be determined. I think it's too soon to know how we might be able to gather. I am very interested in maintaining that community, though. I'm also interested in ideas from this group. Steve, I like that idea. If anyone has good suggestions of things that we could do as the city to give people opportunities to engage, I'd be more than open to taking a look at those ideas.
Yeah, and we've had some talks as well. Serena and I have been planning some Camp Spirit virtual events. You want to talk about that, Serena? Oh, you're muted, sorry. Let me unmute you, Serena.
Hi. Yeah, we are hoping to work with Craig to pull together staff show, a table night, a virtual campfire where everybody can get together and do their s'mores and sing on a Zoom. We're going to try and be creative. We're hoping to do an artist residence class or two. Maybe somebody can do sort of a guided nature sketching or a tie-dye or a basket weaving or just a, any of those great arts and crafts. We haven't figured out the details of the programming, and we need former staff to help us lead those. So anybody former staff or current staff on this call, or if you know somebody who would want to lead a 1-hour camp activity, please get in touch with me, Serena, FOBTC.com.
We've also talked about having a table night.
Yes.
So if you have kids and or grandkids and or yourself with a talent, we thought it'd be pretty fun to just try it. And do that on Tuesday night with a normal rhythm. Have a theme day dance led by a staffer on a Thursday night. where they would teach a line dance all through this virtual strange world, and just see what it feels like to just remember a little bit of camp spirit throughout the summer. We wouldn't do this every week, but we thought, at least once a month,
Yeah.
it would be nice to try this summer, particularly, just to see if it reminds us of what we love and what we miss. We will be back at camp pretty soon, which is very exciting. And we're all going to miss sort of the rhythm of our natural lives this summer. So having something to remind us, even if it's silly and playful, and it's through this strange Zoom medium, then that should have to suffice for the summer.
Especially if it's silly and playful.
Yeah. We've also talked about having, ordering some summer swag that we normally do, having an online store, so FOBTC is sort of working on that. People like to get their camp shirts every year and a little bit of different colors and design. So we're kind of working with our events committee about that and how that might work, how much labor and who's going to hold all that materials in their homes and those kind of smaller details. But we'd like to keep our goal, right? We want to keep the camp spirit and the campers connected to what they love. And so even in the smallest way to do that, that's what we're here for. All right, so if you have a question, raise your hand. Let me get a good look at you, and then I'll unmute you, or type it in here. And Steve, you can pop in anytime and
Yep.
see if you see a good question, and I'll keep scanning for hands. But I only have a visual of you if you're on camera.
I think there's a virtual hand raise feature, though. I think that's what Rachel used. Is that right, Rachel?
There is.
There is. There's a button you can click, even if you're not on video, to raise your hand. We can see
It's
it.
a little hard to find for people sometimes.
All right.
There's a question about fishing. Will there be access to the river for fishing? And I actually have an add-on for that. There was a great program with the Craig, with the hatcheries, where they stocked do you know if the U.S. Forest Service is going to continue, that hatchery is going to continue stocking the river for fishing?
That's a great question. That's something I'll look into. I have not heard whether that's a program that they've continued at this time, but I'll be looking into that. But yes, there will be access to the river for fishing, definitely.
All right, Rachel. I see you've mastered the raise hand button. So good job, Rachel. Go
Did you
for it.
unmute her?
Oh,
Steve?
yeah. Okay. Oh, gotcha.
All right, guys, it was a mistake. I was trying to figure out how to show other people how to do it, and then I clicked it myself. My apologies.
Now you can tell people how to do it.
So if you click participants, or if you click Alt, and then the button U, your participants box will show up, and there's a little blue hand, and you can just click raise hand.
There you go. I love it.
All right, guys.
Thank you, Rachel.
I am interested from this group, what are some of those favorite traditions, those favorite programs at camp that you really want to make sure come back to Tuolumne Camp when we reopen?
Yeah, great question, Craig. Either raise your hand or chat that to us. Other question, Craig, about the trails around camp. We got a bunch of questions about those in the last meeting too, but it's a good one to address. You know, the trail, the Small Falls, the Hillside Trail, the Sugar Pine Trail. Any sort of thoughts about those at the moment?
Yeah, so we definitely will still have those trails. It's not part of the scope of construction to necessarily go in and rebuild those trails. So that is something that we'll have to take on down the line. We know that they are still getting used pretty regularly, though. There's quite a few people in the community up near Hardin Flat Road that are hiking up and down Small Falls Trail on a regular basis. So we're anticipating that we'll continue to be able to use those trails. Yeah, so that's a great question. I see milk carton boats for the 4th of July as well. I think that's something that we can definitely bring back. Those are great traditions to bring back up to camp.
Craig, question about camp occupancy. What's the full occupancy for any 1 week, both campers and staff?
Yeah, so it will be the same capacity that we had previously. And, prior to the fire, the maximum capacity was around 280 campers on any given night. And that is what we're looking at as our maximum capacity moving forward.
Plus 20 CIT and about 60 staff, right?
Correct, yes. The counselor and training program will be back. and our staff program will be back. So if you add that all up together, total capacity is around 350, 360.
I have one comment and then a question for you, Craig. The comment being around trail building. So that is something, just so everybody understands, that we are well aware of, that it was not in the bid for the contractor. So it's outside of their scope, and it's not in the domain of the Forest Service to rebuild those trails. So it really kind of falls in between. And these are the gaps that FOBTC has been focusing on, to trying to raise money to close those gaps, because obviously we want a really nice, clean trail to walk to Small Falls and then walk down to Cobble Beach and go up above camp. So we are on that. That's part of our thinking. And we have a nice partnership with the Tuolumne River Trust, which is a great nonprofit that was started when we were started, when FOBT was started in 1984. And they and us are working on a grant together to support rebuilding trails with trail professionals, as well as bringing in our volunteer base. So that is something we will have the ability to do some volunteer work for. It'll come later, a little bit later down the road, but we're working on that grant and actually fundraising for that goal as well. We want to be able to have those trails when day one starts. That's super important to us. One question for you, Craig, that I heard before that I think would be great to hear from you is just give us the process of what the city's thinking on a director and kind of how that might play out going forward in the next couple of years.
Yeah, well, we definitely know we will need a camp manager to manage the facility. And I don't have a firm timeline regarding that, but we are definitely looking at when we will be bringing on that new camp manager to help with all of this work that needs to be done. So that's how I started with the city. I started as the camp manager at Tuolumne Camp, and I'm really thankful to have the opportunity now to work with all of our camp programs as part of this team. And I'm excited to bring someone on board. So when that recruitment begins, we will definitely be advertising that and getting that out to the community so that people know that that opportunity exists. And then we'll go through that recruitment process and bring them on board and hopefully give them all the resources and tools they need to be really successful with this job coming in. This is going to be a big job. This is going to be something that's going to require a really unique skill set to tackle this and really take it on, especially year number one with so many expectations for the traditions and what needs to go into making camp successful. So I'm sure that I'm going to be a big part of this as well. That my supervisor, Denise Brown, who's been with us every step of the way, she's going to be a huge part of this project as well. That all of their staff that work at camp are going to be a huge part of the success. And so over the next couple of years, as we work on that staffing plan, the camp manager will be part of that. I'll continue to be part of it. And we'll be bringing in quite a few other people as well that are going to be working directly to make sure camp is ready to go. And all of you will be part of that. My first year at Tuolumne Camp, boy, it was a culture shock. I have, I think at this point, I have almost 20 years of experience with camps. And I came in and I said, oh, I know all about camps. I know what camping is all about. And I got to Tuolumne Camp and I said, this is a whole new world. And it's an incredible world. I'm so thankful that I've been able to be a part of this community. And I'm hopeful that all of you will help educate the new staff as to what you need to make sure that you have a really great experience up at camp. That new camp manager will be part of that, making sure that they really understand what their role is in being a steward of this property and this program.
I'll speak to that just very briefly. I've had that experience. As many of you on this call I can see are familiar faces from back in 1987. So in 1986. In 1986 was Jerry and Janet's first year being hired for camp. Of course, Elise and Bill Rhodes ran the camp for a good 40 years. And when that transition happened and I was brought on to be Jerry's assistant, we all knew nothing about camp. And we really took our lead from the campers and what is most important and most valuable, including songs and traditions that you couldn't miss, the names of activities you could not get wrong, the rhythm of camp, the feel and smell of camp. And the campers really taught us the way that camp should be run. And I think that attitude that Craig has and the city has now is really one of that openness, and not that we're going to come in here and tell you the way we want to run your camp. And it's a very interesting experience. I totally had the same culture shock,
Yeah.
and I've been going to camp all my life. But becoming part of this community was a very different experience. So that was Jerry and Janet's first year. They ran the camp for 20 years before they cycled through. So I know that we're all going to take care of this new person who comes in to help guide us, and the new staff that come in. And FOBTC will definitely be involved in that process in supporting the camp and creating the culture that we're wanting to come back to.
Yeah. And I will just say, you know, Craig, I'm sure you've heard from many former staff. I mean, this new person may not be a new person after all. You may get a lot of applicants of former staff and former
Right.
campers for that job. It's a pretty coveted one. You may see mine in there too. I don't know. It's such an exciting opportunity. Hey, we had a question come through that I think that maybe Craig, you and I can answer. I'll take one part at it. It was a great question about a plan to increase focus on local native cultures and camp programming. I'll just address that again hits right into one of the 3-year strategic plan goals for FOBTC around stewarding nature and the environment and the space around there. So if that's something, Carol, I saw that you asked, that's a great question. Look for opportunity to join us, FOBTC, to participate in that. But I also think that, Craig, you may want to, maybe address that as well, or talk about how that's something, that'll be part of Nature Center culture programming.
Yeah, I mean, we are not the first group of people that have really fallen in love with this location, this particular bend of the river. And there's a lot of history. There's a lot of natural history. There's a lot of resources in the area around Berkeley-Tuolumne Camp. So we want to make sure that we do take every opportunity we can to educate our campers about, our place and our role at Tuolumne Camp. How do we be stewards of this incredible history? So definitely we'll be looking at that as part of the Nature Center programming, our Tuolumne Ranger program, all the things that we can do to educate, really work collaboratively with the U.S. Forest Service as well as the Miwok tribe. There's some really good opportunities there, and for us, we really value all of those relationships and are working right now to make sure that we've got really healthy, strong relationships, and we're working collaboratively to do all those things. So I think that's a great question.
Penny,
Great.
Penny, did you have your hand up, Penny? There you go. Let's unmute you, Penny.
I did.
There you go. Go ahead, Penny.
We can't hear you.
Penny, you have to click unmute too. You'll see a little button that comes up.
Yep, you're muted, unmuted. Yep.
Bottom left of your screen, your little microphone. Oh, Robin Brown, I think, wants to ask something too.
Okay, let's find Robin. Penny, how about now?
Robin is trying real hard. She's spoken.
All right.
Oh, you're good. Okay. You're trying to tell the other person how to do
All
it.
right, I'll try to get Robin. I got Robin. Hey, Robin, go ahead.
Hi, I don't have a question.
Oh, Robin, it's good to hear your voice, though.
It is good to hear your voice.
You too. Here. Hi.
Hi, Robin.
I'm actually making tie-dye in my kitchen right now with some natural dye.
All right.
Post it on Instagram, and
I
I will, and do the hashtag, and I will put it on.
I will.
I'm
Yeah, I actually
completely
run the
exposed.
Instagram, I run the social media for the Kensington Library. So I've been doing lots of kind of camp crafty things.
I will
during this
share
time.
them all. I will link to them all. Add
Awesome.
to our story. I've got a running story going because people are doing it. Somebody else just sent me a bunch of tie-dye, but people
Nice.
keep sending me the pictures. I'm like, no, put it on Instagram, and then I'll.
Yeah. I'll do
Robin,
the
maybe we
hashtag.
can get you to do something for campers.
Yeah.
You'd be the ideal person to do that. That'd be wonderful.
I
Yeah.
would love that. Yeah, let's be in touch.
Great to see you, Robin.
You too.
Penny,
Okay.
Penny, why don't you type in your question, if you can, into the chat box since your microphone wasn't working. We've got about just another few minutes. We don't mind going over a little bit, but happy to answer any questions. If you have a question, raise your hand and let's see if we can get the technology to work for you.
Scott, I just saw in the comments that for those of you who knew Bonnie Taylor, she passed away in February. That definitely hit me as well. She was one of the first campers that I interacted with as one of the woman wood warriors up at work weekend at Tuolumne Camp. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that and say thanks for sharing that. I was really, really saddened to hear that news.
Yeah, a tremendous friend of camp and for many of us.
Okay,
And
you've got adult. I'm just going to run through things just so for Craig, you just say, yes, these are happening. I've got adult social hour, Sunday turkey dinner, theme day, nature center, campfire, staff play, Yosemite day hike, Carlin Falls, Sawmill sunset. These are all bringing back so many good memories. John Muir hikes. Craig?
Yes, yes, yes. All of those things I can say yes to. We're excited to bring back all of these traditions, and it's really going to be all about what do the campers want. What do you as a camper want Tuolumne Camp to be when we get back to camp? That's what we want camp to be for you. So we're going to be working really hard, and for me, this is such an exciting project. It's not every day as a recreation professional you get to rebuild a camp and think about how do you reprogram a brand new facility with all of these incredible traditions. So it's a great challenge. It's something I'm so excited about. I'm so thankful that we're here at this point. And so yes to all. Yes to all of those things.
there's a couple of other questions I'll pop in. The artist in residence program is a question mark. Yes, Carol, there'll definitely be an artist in residence program. There always has been, even through Echo Lake. So absolutely. And if that's you and you do a artist in residence program, please connect with Serena, because we'd love to do one virtually this summer. We really would. I think that'd be really fun to do. Of course, Friday night cocktail social hour on the island. We wouldn't be camp without those, that's for sure. Ginzy asks if we're going to have a staff reunion once camp reopens. So we've been trying to do staff reunions every year since camp burned down. And we've been successful in bringing staff from all sorts of decades together for staff reunions. And I think Craig would love to have more staff, former staff connected and involved. He even had a weekend planned for that up at Echo Lake, if I remember that right, Craig, right?
Yeah, we've been working on finding ways to do that. I think in light of everything happening in our community, in the world right now, we're going to see what we can do to gather in person. But I just want to acknowledge again and thank FOBTC for setting up this event and this series. It's been so helpful for me to reconnect with campers and see faces and just know that camp spirit is alive and well. So I think this is a great forum and a great way to stay connected. Definitely encourage all former staff to be a part of these forums as well.
Awesome.
That's great. And I love doing it from the green chairs. And I also love it's Saturday, Craig. So I love in 90 minutes, we're having barbecue. I'm really excited about that. Looking forward to burgers here at 12:30.
I can smell the barbecue right now. I don't know about you all.
Is that big?
I'm headed down to Lower Beach for my yoga right now. So I'll see you guys down there.
Jeff and Jane Rhodes, we're definitely going to have quiet hour. It wouldn't be camp without quiet hour. Thanks for that question.
Yes.
I may have that today too, starting at 1:15.
Morning yoga from Judy. The morning yoga program, we've been talking with Liza about that. There's going to be a beautiful, gorgeous new recreation hall, which will be further up the river, off the big rock and down kind of where Boys Camp was. And the back deck of that will look out over the river. It's going to be a lovely new addition, although we don't use those words because it was what was there, of course, couldn't be rebuilt by insurance. But yoga on that space, at that space is going to be lovely. Hi, Shira. It's going to be lovely. I think that's one spot that we could see yoga being just super excited because it's nice and quiet and the river is flowing right behind you.
Well, Scotty, what do you think? We're a little
At 11, if you have questions, we now have a current staffer actually on the call. Would love that. Hi, Shira. Maybe we can help get connected to helping us do some camp activities this summer. That'd be wonderful. It's so good to see you.
Yep.
We're happy if you have more questions, raise your hand now, and there'll be another time in a month to do this again. We'll talk about nature and stewardship and replanting and that focus and that program going forward. We'll do inclusivity and diversity for staff and campers and what we're thinking about that as another one of these Zoom calls, which is super important to this culture, this camp culture. I've had a lot of comments from campers about how important that is for them. So yeah, all right, Ann, let me get you unmuted. Hold on, Ann. I'm looking for your,
I found her.
all right, thank you. Go ahead, Ann. Thank you.
Okay. Hi. It's really good to see everybody and all this energy going into the expected arrival at some point of our camp. And I'm just wondering about the tree planting because I've been involved in that. And I heard that there will be tree planting in the fall, possibly. Is that still the plan?
That's the hope, Ann. That's the hope. Yeah, your family has personally planted about 15 million trees in the last 5 years.
I don't think quite that many. I'm really looking forward to planting them at camp.
Yeah, it was very disappointing when COVID hit. You know, we had to turn away people who wanted to plant trees this year. We filled up the hotel. It was that much. So we had to stop. We had to obviously pull the plug on that, and that was in mid-March. We had over 200 people. We were primed and ready. We started with 6 people 5 years ago, and now we have to turn away people because the hotel can't really absorb them. They actually opened up the Evergreen because they had reservations. Yeah. So all that said, I did have a conversation with the Forest Service this week, and she's hoping, the one in charge, Maria, to do one between mid-November and mid-December. And again, that's very weather dependent. So it's really between, the ground is wet, but there's no snow on the ground for survivability. And it could be as quickly as, all right, looks like this Saturday is a good day to plant, and it's a Tuesday. And so we would put out the word, whoever wants to join us on Saturday, you know, here's where we're going to be planting, sign up, etc. So it won't, you know, mid-March, the second week and third week of March, those weeks are usually good weeks for the soil to be a certain temperature and for the survivability of trees. And we know that that's always a window each year. They're actually, the Forest Service is hoping to ramp us up and get us to be planting. So that's our goal. We need to, you know, get as many trees in the ground as we can, as early as we can. And then in addition to that, there's the mature tree process. So we're also looking at buying a lot of mature trees. So not just the 1 foot pluggers that the Forest Service has, but actually bringing in 5 to 15 gallon trees, which are anywhere from 4 to 8 to 10 feet. And that's about the maximum size, the lettuce plant. And those are not inexpensive. They need to be hosted, they need to be transplanted, and then of course planted by a professional company. We can't plant those size trees because of insurance. So that's our goal. Our goal is to actually get a nursery to host these plants for the next couple of years. And then once construction is done, and we're allowed onto the property in the construction zone area, which is main camp, we would look to plant approximately 150 of those mature trees. I mean, a good amount of mature trees. So it feels like we're coming back to a forested space. But we'll let you know, through our website and through our emails about the next time we will. So that's always going to be we'll always come to you and say, hey, we've got a window, we can plant trees. It's going to be this weekend, this date, you know, and this is the process. And we'll certainly give as much notice as we can as to this fall. That's our hope. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. And thank you so much for for making this happen and continuing to get energized and looking forward to camp again. Thank you.
That's actually a great segue. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Scott, I don't know if you want to talk about next month that we were thinking about making this the Green Chair Chat about nature, and I see Phil on the call right here. You should know there's a comprehensive reforestation plan that was part of the environmental impact report that is extremely specific. I've actually read it. It's like 100 and something pages. And the reforestation part of that has, detailed species list. It talks about natives. It talks about removing non-natives. It talks about riparian reforestation along Thimbleberry Creek and all the way along the riversides. It's really important to shade the river for the native species to come back and for the fish to be able to be back. There's a ton to talk about with nature. Some of that's addressed, then the city's building plan had to address and show how they were going to deal with that environmental impact and how they were going to mitigate stuff. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff that's additional and suggested that we can help with over the next 2, 5, 10 years ongoing. So Phil is incredibly, I see him right there. Do you want to talk about this a little, Phil? And we were thinking of putting together for next month just a talk focusing on nature. But Scott, you want to, or Phil, you want to go talk about that?
Go ahead, Phil, I unmuted you.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I mean, all along since the fire, the FOBTC board has been hearing a lot of really valuable feedback from campers about the need to replant and get mature trees in the ground. And we've also been seeking a lot of foundation and private funding as part of our campaign to be able to help pay for trees and landscaping and trail repair and all the other costs that are associated with restoring the forest and the natural experience at camp, but are not covered by insurance. And so all along, we've had a lot of good conversations with campers, with City of Berkeley staff, with Forest Service representatives, with Tuolumne River Trust folks, with the Tribal Council of the Tuolumne Miwok. So there's a lot of things are finally starting to come together. And I think next month's conversation will be really rich, because ultimately, I mean, this is what brought us to camp in the first place and what sustains us up there. And for those of you that have been to the site, I mean, it's shocking and heartbreaking to see the damage there, but it's also really hopeful seeing all these dogwoods and black oaks and maples and alders and also evergreens like resprouting. So there's a ton of opportunity, and our generation of campers and staff will be the ones that restore the forest, and it'll be our legacy. So I think next June's conversation is going to be great. I'm excited.
And just dovetailing on that, the really great news to know is that everybody's pulling in the same direction. It's not just the campers and the friends and staff, but it's the City of Berkeley, a big player in this, of course, and it's the U.S. Forest Service, a big player in this. So everyone is aligned in the same way to bring back camp and is focused on that and is working towards the same goal. And there's no impedance to that. There's no impediment to that. So that to me is, that says a lot. And I think we should all be very hopeful, but it's going to roll up sleeves and have a chance to put our fingers in the ground at camp. And then we'll start actually outside of the construction zone and move into camp once the contractors are done. So there's a whole plan for that that's possible, and we'll have to be a little patient to get into main camp with mature trees, but we want them to survive. So we'll have to be a little patient until construction is done at main camp. So we'll get to all of that maybe next month. We're about 11:10. If there's something burning to ask Craig, now is a good time, but it won't be the last time. But we also want to let people go. I'm so sorry, Penny. Penny, I think you're on an iPad, and those can be kind of frustrating. Or you're not? Okay. All right. She's pointing to something.
Okay, Penny.
So, Penny, I'm happy to actually help you if you want to email me separately. We can try to figure out how to do this because we love your voice and want to have it here. So you feel free to email me. All right, Stephanie, hang on. Let's see if we can find Stephanie to unmute her. Gotcha. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Hi, everyone. This is so exciting. I put a question in the chat, and this is more, I guess, to Craig or about staffing. We have, future budding staffers who are planning to be either late campers or CITs this year at ECHO. So what's the best way to get them involved, and what's going to be the process for getting people ready specifically for Tuolumne?
Good question.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Stephanie. Thanks for the question.
Nice to see you. Yeah.
Well, it's unfortunately for this summer, we limited staff opportunities for this year because we're not going to be running the Echo Lake Camp program. But we are really looking forward to summer 2021. And I'm very hopeful and optimistic that next year we will be able to offer some opportunities for, Echo Lake camp employment for CITs, for staff at Echo. And we've been talking the last couple of years with all of our Echo Lake camp staff about this pivot, essentially, this transition that we're going to be doing, where instead of needing 45 or 50 staff at Echo, we might need 120 staff when we reopen Berkeley Tuolumne camp. And there are many different hats that our staff wear. They are at Echo, they are family camp staff, they're kitchen staff, they're mate dogs, they're youth camp counselors, they work with private group rentals, and they run very diverse programming, which gives them a really great skill set to do a lot of things, not only at camp, but out there in the real world. Our CIT program hopefully gives them skill sets to do all of those jobs as well. We're going to be working on building that out and scaling that to make sure that we can bring on an adequate number of staff and that they have the training that they need to run not only Echo Lake Camp, but now Berkeley Tuolumne Camp, which will have a strong focus on family camp programs. So, I would love to find ways to engage young CITs, those campers that are phasing out of becoming campers, getting into that CIT program. We want them to apply next year. We really want them to engage in our programming. This year we actually we're trying to find ways to be more intentional about our CIT program. Instead of a 1-week program, we developed some 2-week-long programs to help continue to nurture that growth and build that experience so that we do have staff for the future. So I think that's a great question. I think it's a unique time with everything happening with coronavirus, unfortunately, but that is a big emphasis for the city moving forward.
Well, that's a good way to end this particular week. Thank you so much. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, everyone. We didn't know if we were going to get 2 people today. We really had no idea. So thank you. You've really emboldened what I want to say, you've really given us encouragement that this is a good medium to keep people connected. So keep coming back, please, because it's so much more fun to talk to a monster crowd like this than to 1 or 2 people. And we want your questions. We want your involvement. We're going to build camp back together, not just the infrastructure, but also the culture and the feeling. And we're so looking forward to the day we're back by the river, and there's we're down to a couple of years, so we're excited about that. So Steve, you want to say anything else before we leave, or Serena?
No, I'll just very much. Thanks, Craig, for joining us, and look forward to having you sitting around the green chairs with all of you again. It's been fantastic. Thanks, everybody.
So we'll be in contact. Much love. Have a wonderful weekend, and be safe and healthy, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.